What's up YouTube, Duel here from Zephyr, and this weekend I had the pure pleasure of being able to do a Genesys showcase on stream live at YCS Bologna. So I will be using Rose Dragon, and my opponent is on Vernusylph Naturia, and you might recognise them as it is of course Lamptey. Now I don't open up perfectly, as you see I'm going to have to normal summon down my Mulchomi Forlos. Not the ideal start for a Black Rose Dragon deck, but I do also open up the Revolution Synchron, which I think puts in a lot of work here, because I'm going to be able to perform a Synchro Summon, even without Revolution Synchron being on the field. We're going to go into a Black Rose Dragon, not using its effect, because we of course would lose our Black Rose Dragon. The idea on this one is that utilising the Revolution Synchron and the ability to get into a Synchro level 7, we're going to work our way into a Crystal Wing. So we send the top card of our deck to the graveyard being the Ghost Spell, and then we're going to be able to work our way into a Crystal Wing. Just being as clear as I possibly can here so there's no kind of confusion on the route of play that we are aiming to achieve. So we're going to go into Crystal Wing. I don't believe that Crystal Wing is enough on its own, so I do have the Basil Roshu and I also have the Forbidden Chalice. The other card that I opened up was the Twilight Rose Knight, which without anything else in the graveyard isn't going to be much useful for you. My opponent, as you can kind of see in their hand a little bit here, does top deck Nibiru for turn. They also had Droll and Lockbird, but at that exact moment in time I wasn't exactly going to be doing a lot of searching. So luckily, because if they had Droll and Lockbird and I did open up the Rox Rose Dragon, I would have been in quite a good position here. So it looks like we're going to be using Medora and then sending the Keldo, I believe it is. This is going to allow them to get direct access, like special summon the Medora. So I think it's using the Keldo to special summon down the Medora to the field. And we're at this exact moment, like I know they're playing Vernusylph Naturia, but it's just very interesting that they're utilising the Ishizu cards as well. Which makes sense because that's kind of how Naturias can work really, really nicely. And we get into the trap card for Ishizu. Now, basically what this does is it lets you call the top card of your opponent's deck, and if you call it correctly before they draw it, I believe you get to destroy it or send it to the graveyard. I don't know off the top of my head on this one. But we're going to be able to use the Vernusylphs. Now, this is a shout out to Donald because Donald plays the Vernusylphs in his Madolches. So I'm very versed in how good the Vernusylphs can be, and this is kind of where I get tempted by Crystal Wing. So I do declare the Crystal Wing to negate this one. We do find out a little bit later on that Crystal Wing will only gain the attack if it destroys the card, and obviously if it negates in the graveyard it doesn't technically destroy the card. So it's quite important here. We do get to normal summon down the Mole Cricket, and by normal summoning down the Mole Cricket we're going to be able to kind of utilize this effect. So this is where it gets quite useful, which is where I can see the fact that the Vernusylphs work really, really well. And kind of definitely helps the Naturias. This kind of takes us back a little bit before the Naturias in Modern got a slight hit. So we're going to be going into... Now, I'm not as big familiar with each individual card on this one, but I am holding my resources back here, and what I mean by that is I'm holding back the Forbidden Chalice for a point where I feel that it's going to become dangerous to me. Like as it currently stands, there's only the capacity or the ability for a rank 4 on the field. So I'm not completely threatened. I feel that with 4 cards on my side of the field, 3 on my side of the field plus 1 in the hand, I don't need to worry about anything like an X-Tong Knight. And it looks like we go for the Stink Bug. Now, the Stink Bug can be a little bit tricky to kind of overcome for the pure fact that it can, every time a Naturia monster is declared an attack on, you tribute off the Stink Bug and it ends the battle phase. So I probably could have just attacked the Stink Bug, thinking about it, because I think it's every other Naturia. But I suppose if you do attack it, maybe it is just itself. These are some of the odd Naturias that I definitely am not familiar with whatsoever. But they can kind of help you slow the game down, keep it a little bit more controlled, which works out in its favour. So when a face-up Naturia monster you control is selected as an attack target, you send this face-up card you control to the grave, negate the attack, and end the battle phase. Yeah, so it would do it regardless. So yeah, we're going to utilise the trap of the Ishizu trap, and he calls Rox Rose, which naturally would be really, really disappointing if he gets this right, because I'm just going to double check this one of exactly what it does, because again it's a card that you don't usually play. So kind of an interesting thing that you need to take into account on this one. So it is called during your opponent's draw phase before their normal draw, if it is already face up on the field, declare one card, look at the card drawn for their normal draw, and if it was the declared card, send it to the graveyard. Yeah, so that's kind of really painful, because then it just kind of stifles off your resource. Fortunately for me, Lanty didn't call it correctly. It was Draw and Lockbird. Draw and Lockbird's not going to do a huge amount for me here. Neither is the Twilight Knight, because when I think about the Twilight Knight, there's not really... Like, it can bring back the Black Rose Dragon, because it can bring back any Rose Dragon monster, which is quite useful here. And again, Rose Dragon will only do something when it's synchro summoned. So there's lots of little things to kind of think about here. And the Crystal Wing is causing quite a lot of issues, because none of the Naturias are that strong enough to get over it as of yet. And then constantly having that monster negate can be massively, massively damaging, especially in a Genesys format where everything is slightly slower. It really then comes down to the spells and traps that you play in order to kind of out the Crystal Wing. So yeah, I mean, Crystal Wing is one of my favourite synchro monsters around. It's just so incredibly good. And when it came out in Shining Victories all those years ago, it was like the second set that I fully invested in, like ever, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So that was really kind of cool. At this exact moment in time, I'm currently eyeing up what synchro targets I can aim for if I do go with the Black Rose Knight, for the pure fact that if I go with the Rose Knight, I'm going to be able to attempt to bring back the Black Rose Dragon. And I know the battle phase is going to be ended, so it's kind of like, do I want to hold the Crystal Wing for that? Like, ideally, if my opponent doesn't have anything they can trigger or use, then the Crystal Wing would put in a lot of work here. Because then I could negate the stink bug, start to clear off some more field presence, and move it, progress a little bit more in my favour. The fact I can bring back Black Rose is quite interesting here. So we're going to be using the Ishizu card. I can never remember what one that is. Is it Keldo or is it... I think it is Keldo, isn't it? Yeah, Keldo. So we're going to be using Keldo to try and return the Black Rose Dragon. This is where I kind of then need to tempt, do I use the Basil Roshu? Because the Basil Roshu will still give me the Black Rose Dragon. And this is probably something that needs to be changed in regards to the overall build of the deck. So one of the ideal scenarios is I bring back Black Rose Dragon. But then when I look at my extra deck, my level 10s that I'm currently playing were Chaos Angel and the... I'm trying to remember what the other 10 was. I think it was Chaos Angel, which needs light and darks, and Black Rose, unfortunately, is a fire. So then the other 10 that I could have gone, which would have been in an ideal scenario, which would have done really, really well for me, would have been the Ruddy Rose Dragon, which is something I haven't added in. It was one of them ones that was between that and another one. So should have been really important to bring that back. So that now my opponent is chaining the Medora to stop the Basil Roshu, or not stop it, but kind of again banish. So I'm going to Crystal Wing negate that. I want my Black Rose Dragon on the field because it kind of gives me that resource. Obviously, I didn't want to use the Basil Roshu to have to bring it back into defense position. We do resolve the Medora though, not the Medora, sorry, the Keldo. It just loses the Black Rose Dragon as the target to shuffle back, which is fine. So he puts back the Revolution Synchron, which I don't mind that. I believe he might have been worried that the Revolution Synchro could use his effect again, but it's once per duel to bring itself back from the grave as a tuner. Yeah, and then I know whatever attack I make here, the Stink Bug just ends the turn, or ends the battle phase, so to speak, now that I can't Crystal Wing to protect or push that a little bit further forward. Yeah, it's a nice little control deck, a lot of thinking here, and now I'm like, do I use Chalice in response to the Camellia, using the effect to revive the Cricket, and then obviously using the Chalice, even though it makes it slightly stronger, it still kind of negates its effect, which I think is really important. Kind of keep it within bounds, especially when I've got the Crystal Wing recharging every single turn. It really kind of keeps it very simplified, which is really quite important. So we go Crystal Wing over Camellia. You're going to use the Stink Bug here. You're going to end the battle phase. You're going to negate the attack. So the Camellia stays. Kind of makes sense. So that doesn't really, surprise me too much. And then this is where I want to go into a Synchro 10. But then when I look at my Synchro 10 options, they're not the best choice ones. They could be so, like, I think that's where I needed a generic level 10 Synchro. Cheng Ying could have been kind of cool, but that's probably going to be more important for this specific matchup than anything else. The Jinjurishi, like the Cursed Thunder, is kind of cool, but I don't think it's enough. It's one of them ones where I was like, okay, do I sacrifice my Crystal Wing, use the Rose Dragon to kind of go from there? The other issue is that the Twilight Knight can reduce the level of another plant monster. Unfortunately, they're all, like the other two I've got left, the dragon. So it was either a Synchro level 11 or a Synchro 10. I would have liked to have gone into a Synchro 10, because with the Synchro 10, maybe giving the Stink Bug back wouldn't have been that good, but I would have been able to give back the Mole Cricket, which kind of makes Camellia a little bit weaker. But yeah. So for the draw phase, we're going to use the trap card again, discarding the Duel and Lockbird, which is of really no use in this strategy at this exact moment in time, because I'm not pushing that hard on everything. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of back and forth, which is really, really nice. That's kind of where it's at. Oh, he also plays Herald of the Orange Light. I didn't see that. So we're going for another Vernusylph, which is really, really good. Like, the Vernusylphs in this deck is crazy. Like, the deck build behind this is really, really cool. It kind of makes the Naturias get a second win, because they can play the Sacred Tree a little bit more now, and the cost of points isn't anything too crazy, which is really cool. Just kind of contemplating exactly what we do here. It's a little bit risky, because with only 2 cards in hand, if you do use the Vernusylph, I would be amazed if that Crystal, like, if I'm not going to use my Crystal Wing to negate it. And I believe he's kind of just contemplating his options here, what he wants to set up, what he wants to try and get to. There's nothing more along my spell and trap zone right now, so that's nothing he needs to worry about. He already knows the top card of my deck is going to be the Duel and Lockbird, because he saw it for the previous turn, as long as he remembers it as well. But it's a very good mind game here. Like, not mind games, but like a lot of thinking. It's like, do we let this resolve? And I'm like, what could come from it? And it's probably better to let it, well, contemplate whether you want to let it resolve, and then when it does, because it goes for a search, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you search that's going to give you any sort of advantage? So we go for the Keldo. I'm just reading the Keldo here, just to double check exactly what the Keldo does. Just reading the Keldo, and we're just thinking on this one here. It's the trap card. Just going to draw on res. Trying to think where we're at. Yeah, because the Keldo is discard to grab one, right? Told you that it's been since Tearlament was the last time I actually read the Ishizu cards. So discard one other Earth Fairy, special this card from the hand, then add a exchange of spirits or a card that mentions it from the deck to the hand. Yeah, so obviously I don't want that happening. So we're going to droll that. I could very easily have like crystalled it, but like the idea is if I droll it, it makes it very, very awkward. And then the crystal still has its effect live should everything happen. Like, I feel the most effective thing that could happen here is that a normal summon of, there's one unknown that I don't know, and then the Keldo that I do know. Getting the Keldo could be quite useful actually into the graveyard, because then that could disrupt my grave plays. Maybe there's no rank 4s in the deck on this one. So we're calling this one, he sticks with Roxrose, sticks to the guns on Roxrose. It's not a Roxrose, it's a White Rose, so a little bit closer on this one. Now, I've just got to try and remember on this one. White Rose, I believe, because it has very specific requirements. White Rose Dragon. So, White Rose Dragon is... if you control a Dragon Tuner or a Plant Tuner, which I do, I can special on this card from hand, because I control the White Rose, or the Black Rose Twilight Knight. And so we get to normal summon this. We now have a 4 and a 3 on the field. Synchronous, like the Twilight Rose has done its job. Like it's kind of held its own where I need it to. So we're going to go into using the Plant Tuner to go into our Bramble Rose. Bramble Rose now makes this very, very awkward in the duel, because Bramble Rose now, every single time a monster effect is activated, they have to pay 600 life points. And that starts to tick the clock a little bit faster. Obviously, it gets a bit better if you can have the Black Rose Garden in rotation, because then at any point you could threaten your opponent for a burn of anywhere from 2,400 up to as many plants, like an additional 100 life points for every plant in the grave. So We're just doing the maths here. So it's a 600 cost because you've used the Mole Cricket. And this is kind of like the interesting part as well when you've got the Crystal Wing on the field, is like, when do you want to negate something? Now, I do make a bit of a misplay here because we're just using the White Rose effect to send the Stay Sailor from the main deck to the graveyard. And we're kind of contemplating, what do we want to send? Now, I should have sent the Garden Rose Maiden from the extra deck. And instead, this is the one reason I'm not the biggest fan of the Spore. So we're going to be using the Mole Cricket. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. I'm just kind of contemplating on this one, whether we let them take the 600 damage or I Crystal Wing to kind of negate it. So we let it resolve. It goes into the Sunflower. Now, this is where it gets very, very tricky because the Sunflower is a negate within itself. And I believe the Sunflower is, I can't remember if it's monster effects or if it's spell and trap effects. Naturia Sunflower. So the Naturia Sunflower is monster effect is activated, tribute Naturia and then negate it. So at this moment in time, we've got a bit of a blocker up against the Crystal Wing. So I don't mind that because unless they can put anything threatening on the field or do anything with it, like sending Sacred Trees is still going to be fine. It's only monsters that they take the 600 life point damage for, which I'm just quickly reminding Basti on that one now. So searching out the quick play spell card, which is fine because again that can only be utilized during their turn, and we're really trying to maintain and control what's going on here. So constantly being able to pay 600, it means that when my attacks start going through, it starts to get a little bit worrying. Of course, at any moment I can use Bramble Rose to tag out into Black Rose Dragon, but then I ultimately don't want to lose my entire field. And so this is where I make a misplay, is with the Stay Sailor. Again, like I said, I should have sent the Garden Rose Maiden. I didn't. I sent the Spore, and then I stopped and remembered. I was like, Spore needs to have specifically a light plant, beast or beast warrior, and I don't have any of that because I've got a dark plant in Bramble, I've got a fire dragon, and I've got a wind dragon. And it only really becomes massively useful when you have Black Rose Garden in rotation. So right now we're just going to switch our Black Rose Dragon to a tap position. Now we've got enough, like we can clear this field off. We can trade off with this field very easily. So Black Rose into the Sunflower, which gets rid of the monster negate. Bramble into the Camellia. Crystal Wing into the face down, which is the Keldo. Keldo obviously now has its graveyard effects live, which can start being quite annoying. And we're ultimately just going to put a bit of a ticking clock on the field now. It's kind of like a Masquerade Dragon, where we're going to pass there, because at any point where I feel that I'm going to be like massively threatened, I tag the Bramble Rose out into a Black Rose, completely nuke the entire field, and then I have the graveyard effect of the Bramble Rose. One thing I could have done in the previous turn as well is I could have used the Black Rose Dragon's effect to banish one from the graveyard, switch a monster from defense to attack, and that would have got a bit of life point damage into rotation. But so we draw a Draw Unlock Bird for turn. We're going to use the trap card to send the Draw Unlock Bird. Like in a simplified game state like this, where we're both kind of, it's whatever field presence you have plus whatever you're top decking, it kind of makes it like the Draw Unlock Bird is very like the least effective kind of card to be used. And just kind of looking at these Vernusylphs now, it really is just a matter of time, because once Lamptey can kind of regain resource, like if he starts to out-resource me with these Vernusylphs, which we're starting to see now, like my hand limit is like 0, I've got nothing left, whereas Lamptey's currently on 3. Being able to use Blessing, again, is absolutely fine, and it's just about keeping a track of the effects being activated, the life points that they need to kind of be cost off for it as well. Yeah, so a bit of back and forth, bit of trading off here, watching the life points slowly kind of go down, and now we're just kind of contemplating what we want to use, trying to be as clear as we can. So we're going to use Crystal Wing on this one here. On the Mole Cricket, yeah, the Mole Cricket summon, use the effect. Obviously we don't pay any life points on the Mole Cricket because it was negated, so it never actually resolved. Going to use the Vernusylph. The Vernusylph then discards the other one. So this is where the hand, again, the resource now balances itself back out. So now my field presence is stronger compared to the hand advantage, and now it's going to try and present more to the field. So you're looking at stuff like the Camellia, going for the other Vernusylphs, revive one from the graveyard. There's nothing in my graveyard right now that can really trade off. So we're going to go for the Camellia. The Camellia is like the best Naturia monster. Like all the new, I say new support, the most recent support in the Naturia's got was absolutely crazy. So send another Sacred Tree. Sacred Tree does what Sacred Tree wants to do. There's just a lot here, and you can see as he goes through his deck list, there's Nibiru's in there, there's Herald of the Orange Lights, which I think are really cool of a hand trap, hand interaction type card. So we get to go into the Mole Cricket. Haven't even conducted a normal summon yet. So if we wanted to, we can work into like a Nat Beast and kind of push a bit of pressure on there. But with this field presence right now, we're not really worrying. There's no interactions here, apart from the fact that we're just going to be, slowly, ever so slowly chipping away at these life points with the Bramble Rose. And that's what I like about Bramble Rose, is the fact that it's exactly what like a rose is. If you're if you're not cautious enough when you're handling a rose, you will get a bramble, you will get hit by a thorn. And that's what I like about the Bramble Rose. It is literally just, I'm not the biggest fan of burn cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think that they are fun. I like the idea when they match the type of card, but that's not what I want my win con to be. So, luckily, the whole idea of the Black Rose Dragon Deck is not to sit there and just like Bramble Rose your opponent out. The Bramble Rose is there designed to put pressure on your opponent, to make it difficult for them to try and out your field. And when they try to out your field, you go, you know what, if you're going to out my field, I'm going to out your field too by going into a Black Rose Dragon. So there's a lot to kind of remember on this one. So we go into Naturia Beast on this one. Now we're going to get to use the Camellia to bring back the Cricket. And the more and more we use here, the more and more the Bramble is going to kind of take its toll. Nat Beast and Naturia Beast, to be precise, right now isn't that effective. Just kind of going over with the judges right now, the life point kind of cost that has been paid, because we know that the original Mole Cricket doesn't pay the effect. So I'm just keeping track of the life points here, because it should be a little bit less than 5,600. Yeah, so you can see it goes down to 38 because we ended up using a lot that were kind of missed during chains, or just as we were building chains. And then we realised that the Naturia Beast isn't strong enough to get past the Black Rose Dragon at 24, a Bramble Rose, or even a Crystal Wing. So we're still in a very good position. He's going to call it, and he calls the Rox Rose again. It's not the Rox Rose, it's Vengeful Witch, which again is a really good card to kind of draw here, because obviously I don't have a discard to do anything with it. But the fact I can special summon it as I control a Rose Dragon monster, again, just shows crazy amounts of synergies. So we're going to be using the Black Rose Dragon's second effect, that very ever rarely comes up. But in a game like Genesys, it can actually be quite useful when your opponent's trying to be defensive, especially with only 3,800 life points left on the left. Using Black Rose Dragon to shift it to attack, and with Cricket being relatively weak, like if you want to use Cricket's effect, that's fine, but it forces the Cricket effect. So we banished the Stay Sailor from the graveyard in order to do so, move the Cricket to attack position. It's kind of about just getting over the finish line right now, because really got a good duel back and forth. It's a shame that the Crystal Wing kind of gate kept the Vernusylphs in general, but there was a lot of plays going on here, and I think Basti kind of realised that he misplayed a little bit by not searching out a Blessing off of the Camellia, which would have been quite useful here. So we negate the Cricket, Bramble Rose, Crystal Wing, and then I kind of wanted to end the duel with Black Rose Dragon. Like, that's kind of what like, it's always nice to end a duel on your ace monster, but it was an absolute pleasure to be able to do this on the big stage. It was an absolute pleasure to face Basti as well. Very, very fun duel. Very, very interesting back and forth to see some of the Genesys decks. And it was great to utilise Black Rose Dragon and actually show Black Rose Dragon complemented I suppose is the right word, and doing very, very well. But, absolute pleasure. We did do a branded structure, like the Chronicles Fallen and the Virtuous mirror match, I would suppose was to say. We both used the structure decks. So if you want to see that as well, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do so. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Absolute pleasure sharing the stage with Basti this weekend. So thank you very much. Stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.